Alright, today project is a 2014, 2018 BMW 328. This car came in needing timing redone. So we already did a lot of work off camera already. Started with taking the valve cover off. You gotta remove the fuel line, the high pressure fuel pump. You gotta take off the vacuum pump in the back. It's a T30 screw, three T30 screws. Remove that, get everything out the way. You gotta take off this hose, the intake. You gotta remove the big intake that's right here. I'm gonna go up with the car now. So now we're up under the car. Gotta drop down the subframe, take off the oil pan, so you can get access to the vacuum pump sprocket and the rest of the timing chain. This one actually broke off the vacuum pump, so we gotta find a way to lock this sprocket to get this bolt out. We'll get back. So in order to drop the subframe, this 113 bolt here you gotta take off on the passenger side. 113 over here. We got E14 here. No, right here. No, I got that. And right here. So you got 1, 2, and 3 on both sides, driver and passenger. So right now, bringing back up the subframe to lock the vacuum pump shaft on to get the bolt out the sprocket.
What did you say you met Rudy at? I don't know if it was you or something. Why did I meet Rudy at? I was putting around in his job over on Jimmy Carter. Taking that motor out that van, putting it in that truck van, that shit they put over.
What was that? Piece of the guy.
He fixed that first one.
So, did you see that? So you want to pin the vacuum pump shaft to be able to get the bolt out of the sprocket. And then the timing tool, well, if you have the timing tool, that comes with it in the kit. So get this bolt out, then you work on the crankshaft bolt. So after you get this bolt out, start to take the crank pulley off, and those are E10 bolts. So once you get those E10s off, you pull off the crank pulley, bring the car back down, take off your engine support bar, and begin to start using the timing. Put the timing tool in, if you have this tool.
You can't do it without it.
So now you gotta spin it to top dead center.
One thing I want to point out is that these motors love to go off timing. and you'll be able to see them once you do them. You throw it at top dead center. Come here. You throw it at top dead center, you're gonna know it's top dead if you. There's 2 barcodes on each cam, which is right here. The other one doesn't have it because of jump timing. So we gotta manually spin that to get a top dead center on both sides, and we'll be good. And we'll start taking off the timing stuff and everything. And make sure these bolts are tight. You don't want your timing tool to move while you're adjusting your timing and locking everything in. That'll be pretty bad.
And these bolts screw into one of the valve cover bolts. So.
Yeah, to the head.
So you're gonna want to move the tensioner pulley to get to these access points to the bolts to the timing guide. It's 1, 2. There's another one back there, and it's 1 more.
There's only 3.
No, there's one down there.
There's one right here, one right here, one right here, and technically right here because this is the tensioner for the timing.
You gotta pull off the wastegate on the ones that have that does have that's not the pneumatic wastegate.
No, you still gotta pull off the pneumatic.
The wastegate too?
Yeah.
Explain what you just did.
All right, so you know how we earlier in the video we said we took this loose. So we took this loose and we removed the timing chain tensioner. That gets replaced with a new one. And so after that, we took off the timing sprockets that go right here, and we used a 24 is the size for the timing sprockets on the front. There's a tool that comes with these timing tools that locks the flywheel. There's a pin that locks the flywheel, and then there's a like a sprocket type lock on the bottom of the flywheel that goes at the bottom between the transmission, and it has teeth, so it locks them in so it doesn't move. If you just use the pin, you run the risk of breaking a piece off the block, and it doesn't really damage the engine to where it's not drivable. It's just, you know, it's just something that breaks off, which I don't like. but that's why we bought the extra tool. So we loosened the crank bolt. Crank bolt is very, very, very tight. I can't remember the torque specs on it, but it's a very tight torque spec. We are replacing this bolt. See, this bolt gets replaced. I don't like reusing them. I don't see the point of reusing them when you can just spend, I don't know, a few extra dollars and get a new one. So that's going in the trash. We don't reuse aluminum bolts here. It's just, there's no need to do double work to do this thing right. So now I can actually take off the spindle. I mean the crank.
Crank hub.
Crank hub. Yeah, sorry about that. The crank hub. I'm gonna leave it just like that so I don't forget how it goes. Always take mental notes of how things go.
The orientations.
Because the way things come off is always the way they come back on. So just keep in mind, just keep the sprocket in until you're ready to put the new one on. Again, a lot of people don't replace this, but you have to replace this sprocket. It needs to be replaced because this is what spins. This is what you get like a crank hub spin. This is what ultimately spins, and it fucks up your timing.
And with the chain jumping, this can either get shaved down, these little teeth right here. Some of them might not be even with the rest and cause your new chain to jump off again. So always change this out.
Sure. These timing bolts are T40s. What am I ready to do?
Go ahead.
There's 3 of them that hold the timing chain, and then two what's it called? E8s.
All the timing components is removed from the engine now. Timing guide, timing chain, vacuum pump chain, what you call it, the timing to jump. It's snapped in half.
All right, so we installed the oil pump chain kit that comes from Fabi, whatever you want to call it.
OE replacement.
OE replacement parts. Always OE. You don't want to cheap out. So it's just 3 bolts, 4 bolts if you count the actual, the bolt for the pump. But it's 3 T30s, and this is a 50. We're not gonna tighten this yet because I gotta lock the pump on this side over here. And yeah, so now we gotta bring the car down, start installing the crank hub, the sprocket, and the timing chain guides and all that, and then pretty much we're done.
And this whole assembly comes as one piece. So all you gotta do is slap it in, put the bolts in, and then wait to take this pin out to release that tension on that bolt.
Yeah,
I mean on the
we'll
tension.
include the a picture here in just a moment of the whole kit, what it takes, and all that. All right, so in box, it doesn't really come together. This comes in a separate box, which is a fresh chain. This comes apart, but it's basically like that. Put it together like that, and that's how it drops in like that. Make sure you get, here's the OEM sprocket. It's got a, from what I've read, because it comes, see all the splines right here? it helps it not slip. So yeah, this is their new updated. Same with the oil pump time chain kit. Their sprocket comes with grooves like this, like splines, so it stays together, so it doesn't slip. Unfortunately, this one, the pump chain broke on it, so we're gonna see if this car didn't really starve too much of oil. If it did, then we're gonna probably do a engine replacement on this and redo all this. But it's just one of those things that when it happens, it happens.
And if the car come in not driving, we have to do this to see if the engine is good. So either way you go,
Either way you put it, it has to be done.
yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna redo it for you guys. It's really not that hard. So basically, this is how it is installed. This is actually where it kind of sits. When it's all said and done, like bolted up. So I do this that way. I get everything in one piece, and the crank could just slip on right here. I'm gonna clean the crank before I throw it in. But this is basically, I'll show y'all right now. Let's clean this up real quick. All right. So fit right here, you can see where the holes, it matches, it goes into both the sprocket for the actual timing and the sprocket for the oil pump. So you can see right there. You see how it moves and there's a hole. So yeah, let me install this real quick. Alright. So now all you got to do is just retrace your specs back on what you removed. The two E8s go right here. Now be mindful, since this is a chain, it's not really like a belt like you normally see like in conventional 4-cylinders where
V8s.
like Hondas and stuff, where there's
Groove.
there's either a groove or a timing mark onto the actual chain. This, it's okay if it slips off of there as long as it's in its sprocket and it's in the teeth. These don't have to be super tight, or else you run the risk of breaking it into the head, which I don't feel like trying to tap any bolts out today, which I'm not gonna do. But yeah, so on the next clip, you're about to see the sprockets back on, and most of the timing stuff is already done. So you'll see all this tidied up and ready to go to put the valve cover and the oil pan back on. These have a specific place to put them in. You can't put, like say you got the exhaust one, you can't put the exhaust one on an intake, all right? And they clearly show exhaust. So the exhaust obviously is on the turbo side. So make sure that these go in the right spot when you install them. Most of it done. One thing I did want to mention is that they vary in sizes for the timing chain guides. These two are always going to be at the bottom, and this one's going to be at the top right here. next to the oil filter housing. So just keep in mind, I mean, it's not hard to mess up just because these two always go at the bottom. This one goes at the top. So we're gonna install that real quick and then wrap this up. And I'll see y'all. All right, so we've gotten to a point where everything is tight on the timing, regarding the timing, the crank hub, the bolt, all that. These 4 bolts are tight. Crank bolt is tight. We reinstalled the oil pickup tube, which, as you can see, is tiny compared to 6-cylinder engines. The tensioner bolt is already on, so when we bring it down, we'll show you. But pretty much the timing job is done. Now it's time to just put it back together, bring down the subframe down again so we can reinstall the oil pan. And yeah, we're good to go. See what she does. Timing should be spot on, so we shouldn't have any issues with it. But basically, that's how you do a timing job on a N20, N26. Basically identical motors. There's little things here and there that are different, but aside from that, timing job and the oil pump timing chain is pretty much the same and is done the same. So yeah, so that wraps up really the timing job video that this is gonna be. I was thinking right after we did that clip that this particular motor, well, any motor really, if you don't do the correct timing on it, the car will not turn on. So if you ever run into an issue where you did the timing chain and you did all this, the labor on it and everything, and it doesn't want to run, your timing is off. So just make sure to have everything, all the timing and everything done correctly, and it'll just fire up right up.